Maintenant, nous allons réviser le subjonctif. D'abord, il faut parler de la conjugaison. Pour former le subjonctif, vous prenez la forme il pluriel et puis vous enlevez les lettres ENT et puis vous ajoutez les terminaisons E, ES, E, IONS, IEZ, ENT. D'accord? Alors voici les exemples des verbes en ER, IR et RE. Ce sont les verbes réguliers. These are the regular verbs. Il y a pas mal de verbes irréguliers, comme mettre, sortir, connaître, conduire, etc., etc. The reason why these are called irregular verbs is because the il pluriel form has a different spelling than the je form, for example, and so it's going to change the way that you pronounce the verb. Some verbs have two different stems. Il y a deux radicaux pour certains verbes, but the endings are the same as above. So you've got verbs like boire and payer. Boire has the inside the boot spelling of B-O-I-V, and then outside the boot B-U-V. A lot of your spelling change verbs in subjunctive are spelling change verbs in present tense as well, like the il paye, the wide I stem changer for the verb payer. And then you've got other verbs like croire, mourir, prendre, tenir, voir, venir, etc., etc. So you need to remember regular verbs, irregular verbs, spelling changers. And then there are some verbs that are irregular in the subjunctive and they just need to be memorized. You've got your classic verbs like faire, avoir, être, aller, d'accord? But you've also got a few more irregulars. You've got pouvoir, savoir, pleuvoir, vouloir. You're not going to use vouloir that often, or pleuvoir and savoir are probably going to come up that much, but it's important to note that those are irregular as well. D'accord. So why do you use the subjunctive? Quelles sont les raisons? Well, the first reason to use the subjunctive is after certain impersonal expressions. So these impersonal expressions are used to express necessity, possibility, or even opinion. D'accord? For example, if I want to say il est bon que, I'm expressing an opinion using an impersonal expression. It is good that. Il est dommage que is another example of an impersonal expression used to express my opinion. Il est important falls under the category of necessity or opinion. Impossible goes under possibility. Il est temps que, necessity. Il est intéressant que, opinion, etc., etc. What's important to know that these expressions are all impersonal, and for the most part they follow the formula, it is adjective that. When you've got it is adjective that, you're triggering the subjunctive. You've got some other regular ones over here, like il vaut mieux que, it's better that. The classic il faut que, il semble que, it seems that. And then the rest of them are it is adjective that. So you've got your impersonal expressions for the subjunctive. You can also trigger the subjunctive with verbs and expressions of wanting, wishing, and commanding. So if I want someone else to do something, if someone else wishes or commands something to be true, we're triggering the subjunctive. D'accord? So if I want you to do your homework, je veux que tu fasses les devoirs. I want you to do something, therefore my second verb is in subjunctive. I've triggered the subjunctive. Alright. We also use the subjunctive after verbs and expressions of emotion. So emotion triggers the subjunctive. So if I'm scared that something's going to happen, or I'm embarrassed that something is going on, or I'm sad that something happened in the past, or I'm happy that, you're getting married. All of these things trigger the subjunctive. D'accord? Now here's the trickiest part of triggering the subjunctive. and that is doubt, disbelief, and denial. So the subjunctive, of course, has two tenses. You've got present subjunctive and past subjunctive. Those are the only two that you need to worry about. And most of the time we're dealing with present subjunctive. So you're replacing your normal present tense verb with the subjunctive present tense when you've triggered it. So the normal present tense is called the indicative. So when you learn conjugations in school, the first conjugations you learn are indicative. You learn present tense indicative, you learn passé composé indicative, imparfait is indicative. A lot of the tenses that you learned are considered to be part of the indicative mood. So you're replacing regular present tense indicative with subjunctive when you trigger it. So if you've got an expression like je sais que, I know that. I've got no doubt in my mind. I know that something is true. I know that you're doing your homework. I'm not triggering the subjunctive. I don't need it because there's no doubt here. But if I use a different expression, je doute que tu fasses les devoirs. Tu fasses, tu fais mean exactly the same thing. The reason why I use tu fasses instead of tu fais is because of this expression, je doute que. When I use the subjunctive trigger je doute que, I need to replace tu fais with tu fasses because I've triggered the subjunctive. Another example is je suis sûr, je ne suis pas sûr. Je suis certain, je ne suis pas certain. So one of them indicates certainty or probability, and the other indicates doubt, disbelief, or denial. It is clear, it is not clear. It is evident, it is not evident. It's the. Attention, il est probable, it is probable. Probability falls under the certainty category, so no subjunctive with probable. However, possible does fall into the category of subjunctive. So, il est possible que, subjonctif. Il est probable que, indicatif. A couple other tricky ones. J'espère, I hope. You would think that j'espère could fall under wishing, wanting, commanding, but hope is positive. It never triggers a subjunctive, so you never use subjunctive with espérer. Croire and penser. Croire means to believe. Penser means to think. When they're used positively, use them with the indicative. When they're used negatively, je ne crois pas, I do not believe. All of a sudden I have doubt. I believe, I'm very certain. I have lots of certainty. I'm not triggering the subjunctive. I don't believe, all of a sudden I'm doubtful. I'm triggering the subjunctive. The same is true for I think. I think you look very nice today. I don't think you look nice today. All of a sudden I'm doubtful about you looking nice, and I'm triggering the subjunctive. What's not mentioned on this slide that is also true is that with expressions like croire and penser, when you make them negative, you trigger the subjunctive, or when you use them in a question, you also trigger the subjunctive. Because if I'm asking you, do you believe he's coming to the party? I am doubtful. I'm not sure that he's coming to the party. So therefore, I'm triggering the subjunctive. Or do you think my butt looks big in these jeans? I'm doubtful about the size of my butt. So I'm triggering the subjunctive. Alright. When dealing with subjunctive, it's important to remember that you need two different subjects in order to use the subjunctive. In English, you could form sentences using the same subject in two different clauses. That would normally require the subjunctive in French, but you need two different subjects in French. So if you're dealing with only one subject, like it's impossible for one to fly, you can't put it that way in French. You have to say it's impossible to fly. Il est impossible de voler. It's possible to leave, il est possible de partir. I'm afraid to swim, or I'm afraid of swimming, j'ai peur de nager. Je suis content d'être ici, I'm happy to be here. Most of the time, this is going to cause problems with the verb souhaiter, when you wish for something. Because in English, you can say, I wish that I were taller. I wish that I were taller. It's the same subject. So, in English, we can repeat it. I wish that I were taller. In French, you would have to use the infinitive there. You would have to say, je souhaite être plus grand. You could not say, je souhaite que, and then repeat your subject. That would be incorrect. So keep in mind that when you've got adjective noun, you're going to use the word de to separate the adjective and the noun. But most verbs are followed directly by the infinitive, and here are a couple of exceptions. Il demande de partir, il suggère de partir. This is just a friendly reminder. Alors, when we talk about sophisticated French, conjunctions are absolutely essential parts of sophisticated French. You use these expressions to sound more intelligent, more sophisticated. Alors voici quelques expressions à condition que ou pourvu que, qui signifie provided that, pour que, afin que, de sorte que. Toutes ces expressions veulent dire so that or in order that. Sans que, without, avant que, etc., etc. So all of these conjunctions trigger the subjunctive. Alors regardez cet exemple. Je vais rester pourvu qu'il soit poli. I'm going to stay provided that he is polite. So in indicative, he is polite is il est poli. But we have to replace il est poli with il soit poli because we've triggered the subjunctive with pourvu que. Again, we've got examples. When you've got only one subject, you've got to use the infinitive. You need two subjects, two different subjects to use the subjunctive. There are a couple of conjunctions, however, that always take the subjunctive even when you have the same subject. So here is a rare occasion, two rare occasions when you can repeat the same subject and still use the subjunctive. Also, excellent expressions for sophisticated French. Bien que et quoique, ce qui signifie even though or although. And this is my personal favorite, jusqu'à ce que. Je vais attendre jusqu'à ce que vous arriviez. D'accord? And then finally, we've got a small list of conjunctions that could be confused as conjunctions that trigger the subjunctive, but these conjunctions do not trigger the subjunctive. Do not use the subjunctive with these ones. Use regular present tense or whatever tense you're using. Alors, ça c'est le subjonctif. Je sais que c'est beaucoup, mais c'est important. Allez, au revoir.